Hello, my name is Filip Hrgovic, also known as Gaiga Chad. I'll animal, I kill you, I break you, I snap you in half. Please follow Triple B, okay?
Yeah, what up? Yeah. Like. To keep the disgusting haters, the jealousy away from the Triple B channel. It's a community based channel, so show some love. Yeah, thank you, Philip. Geiger Chad. So there's boxing's back this Saturday in Manchester, England, as David Greenblatt would say. There is a big fight. Filip Hrgovic vs. Joe Joyce in the heavyweight division. And, it's a big bill. I mean, there were some problems. Moses Italma, Dillian White meant a fight, I think, but we still got a good bill. There's 12 fights on this bill, which is massive, really. It's Queensberry, Frank Warren Promotions. It's not a bad bill. We got, obviously, Joe Joyce, Filip Hrgovic is the most interesting fight, a 10-rounder, a heavyweight 10-rounder. You've got David Adelaide vs. Jamie Shakeva, the YouTube guy. Jack Rafferty, who's unbeaten, a prospect vs. a guy called Corey O'Regan, right? Who's also unbeaten, but he's a big underdog. Corey has only got 3 KOs and 14 wins, whereas this Jack Rafferty has got 16 KOs and 25 wins, and he's got the baby face. There's other guys. There's an Albanian guy called Jurgen Uldai. I don't even know how to pronounce it. Albanians sell tickets. There's a lot of Albanians in the UK. They rule the dealing industry, the yayo industry. The best dealers I ever had were Albanians, always working, always on time. Anyway, it's a boxing channel, so we talk about boxing. Royston Barney Smith, the unbeaten prospect. Mark Chamberlain, allegedly, Turki Al-Sheikh's favourite fighter, although he lost his last fight to Josh Padley, who went on to fight Shakur Stevenson. But yeah, Delicious Ori, the super heavyweight Olympian fighting in a debut. So yeah, I get especially excited when there's a few heavyweight fights on the bill, because they are the kangs. The heavyweights are the kangs. I don't buy that pound for pound stuff. Oh, come on, gay weather. Go and fight Lennox Lewis and see how he get on, bro. You get ironed out. In fact, Dave Allen would iron you out and around. So, quickly, so Adelaide is Shakeva. Surely Adelaide by knockout. I'm just unimpressed by Shakeva. TSK or whatever he calls himself. No, sorry, TKV. Jamie TKV. He can't even spell his own name. Jeamie. I guess maybe his mother was illiterate. I don't know. But surely he's going to get smashed by David Adelaide. The Rafferty Corey fight, I don't know. I'm not super interested. It's a super light fight, a.k.a. light welter fight for the Commonwealth title. I don't even know why the Commonwealth title still exists. It's such nonsense. Who cares? No one beyond the Commonwealth, and even those within the Commonwealth, knows what it is. It used to be called the British Empire title, because at that stage, the British Empire, which allegedly decided to defeat Germany because the German Empire was too dangerous and big, when Germany had 0 colonies, and the UK owned a third of the world, and that was the British Empire stroke Commonwealth title. Who cares about a Commonwealth title, man? It's nonsense. But anyway, so we move on to the main fight. Big Joe Joyce vs. Filip Hrgovic. And this is a very, very interesting fight. And it's a hard fight to predict for 2 reasons. Filip Hrgovic, so he's got 1 loss. He got 17 wins, 14 by way of knockout. So he's a puncher to a degree. 6'6", 1 loss by stoppage to David Dubum. Hrgovic, I thought, would win that fight, but the new Daniel Dubum is on, I don't know what it is, but he seems to have changed. Could it be PEDs? I don't know. I don't know, but he suddenly developed heart, chin, things he didn't have before. And Hrgovic was stopped. He landed a lot of right hands, and Dubois ate them all. That surprised me. I thought Hrgovic would win. Eventually, Hrgovic was stopped on the doctor's advice with cuts all over his face. But Daniel Dubois was very dirty in that fight. He used his head all the time. Very dirty Dubois in that fight. Previous to that, Hrgovic has beaten Mark Demori in a round. Well, Demori looked about 60. Dempsey McKean, he took him 12 rounds to KO him. He was unbeaten at the time, but consequently he's been rubbed out in a round by Moses Itama. Zhale Zhang, he won controversially by unanimous decision. They got dropped in round one. I mean, Hrgovic was meant to be one of the new stars. I've said this again and again, but he trained with David Gay. He was training David Gay. I think he was 19 or 20 in preparation for one of David's fights against, Valuev or Klitschko. And, David Gay said, yeah, this guy's the future. He's going to be a heavyweight champion. He won a bronze medal in the Olympics. Some thought he was robbed, He's done the WBSS, had loads of wins against decent guys. A lot was expected from him. But as I said, he flattered to deceive. He flattered to deceive because he had everything. He had size, he had height, he had power, he's got chin. Okay? Yet, he just doesn't seem that interested. Some people say after his dad died, which I think was before the Zhale Zhang fight, it took something out of him. But even then, I don't know. I always get the feeling with Hrgovic is he doesn't train hard enough. He's not that interested. He's probably bored of boxing. You know what I mean? Previous to the Dubois fight, I always thought he looked a little bit chunky. He's always stayed at roughly the same weight, which is like between 240 to 247 pounds. So he's always kept at the same weight. He looked in good condition against Daniel Dubois. But again, he gassed. And he does gas. He gassed against Zhang a bit. He gassed against Dempsey McKean, although he did him in the 12th round. He looked sloppy. He looked awkward. It's a shame. Because I like Hrgovic. The Geiger Chad. He does look like the Geiger Chad meme. He's almost got too much testosterone. His jaw is too square. You know what I'm saying? He's probably a hero in Croatia. Croatia has produced some good heavyweights over the years. Do you remember Jakov Mavrovic? He went the distance with Lennox Lewis. Croatia has a lot of good athletes for a nation that's got about 4 million people in, including basketball and stuff. But, Hrgovic could become the first Croatian heavyweight champion ever. He could make history, as they say, with just about every fight. He could make history. But before he fights for the title, and by the way, when he fought Dubois, he fought for the IBF interim title, and eventually they gave the IBF title to Dubois. So Hrgovic would have had that title had he won, but he didn't. And he fights now Joe Joyce. But this is why it's so interesting. Big Joe Joyce, again, I was a fan of him. He's got 16 wins, 15 KOs. He's a puncher. In the same Olympics that Hrgovic was in, he got robbed against Yoka. They obviously wanted Tony Yoka to win. I think Joyce got given the title in retrospect. They said, I actually deserve the gold, which is a bit weird. But he didn't get the gold at the time. He got a silver, although he clearly won it. Hrgovic probably should have got a decision as well against Yoka, but they really wanted Yoka to win because his girlfriend or wife, Estelle Mosley, a female whack boxer, was also boxing, and they wanted the story. Oh, a man and his wife both won gold medals in boxing. Yoka's whack anyway. But Joe Joyce is it's rare to see such a dramatic fall. But maybe people should have seen it coming because of his age. He's 39 now, right? They matched him, even though he knocked out Joseph Parker in the 11th round in a brutal fight that I predicted he'd knock him out. He's knocked out Daniel Dubois, who's now the IBF champion. Again, I won money on that, and I predicted that. Who else? He's knocked out Berman Stiverne. He was always fighting a decent level of opposition. Even Ian Lewison in his first fight was a decent British level fighter. He knocked out Carlos Takam as well. But then the rails fell off the Joe Joyce train. He went against the Big Bang, Zhale Zhang, and he weighed in super light. He weighed in at 256 pounds. Despite weighing 270 pounds when he knocked out Parker. That's a fairly big drop in weight, and it can affect your strength. Maybe they thought, we'll go in light because then we'll outbox Zhang because he'll gas. I mean, that's all very well, but Joe Joyce is not exactly a fleet-footed boxer. He leads with his face. As he said before the Zhale Zhang fight, everybody got a plan until they hit me in the face, and then nothing happens, innit? I mean, I like Joe. He's a bit autistic, but I don't mean that as a disrespect. I like autists. He plays games and stuff like that. Allegedly, he paused a game before a big fight because he was so into it. He's one of those guys that's got like 3 screens in his goon room. His game room. And then Zhale battered him over 6. They rematched Zhale Zhang. He came in way heavier this time. Joyce at 281 and got absolutely clobbered. Absolutely knocked spark out by a right hook to the head. And you remember, after the fight, he's like, I really enjoyed that fight. I really enjoyed that fight. I mean, what is going on in his brain? How can he enjoy? He barely landed a punch, got absolutely ironed out, flattened, sent to sleep by Big Zhale, and I really enjoyed that. I mean, I like the fact he's eccentric and quirky. He came back against Cash Ali, who was, he's okay at British level. He bit David Price, and he gave Joyce a bit of a fight before getting KO'd in the 10th round, right at the end. And then, in his last fight, he fought Del Boy, Derek War Chisora. And he lost a unanimous decision, and I couldn't see that. I just thought Chisora was 40 then as well. He's not exactly hard to hit. He's a kind of journeyman stroke gatekeeper type. He's never really had a big win, Derek Chisora, against a big opponent. Well, until Joyce. Joyce is his biggest win. And Chisora won on points, despite looking knackered at times. He actually downed Big Joe Joyce in the 9th round. So, Joyce has lost 3 of his last 4 fights. 2 of them were stoppages. One of them absolutely brutal. And the other one, most recently, he even got dropped by Chisora. He's not a big puncher. And now he's fighting Hrgovic. So you've got you've got 2 guys that were touted to be possibly future world heavyweight champions. I actually thought Joe Joyce would batter Gage at one point, and maybe I was right. Gage is a bit chinny himself, and Joyce can punch, even though he's slow as molasses. But he's fighting Hrgovic. Does Hrgovic want it? Does he want it enough? Hrgovic is also a bit awkward. He's not that difficult to hit. Both of them got good chins. Well, Joyce did, certainly, until maybe it's been zhanged and cracked. Hrgovic obviously has the advantage in age. He's only 32. He had more fights, I think, as an amateur. Actually, I don't know about that. Let me check that. They got very similar experience, Hrgovic and Joe Joyce, and both fought in the WBSS, the World Boxing Super Series. You remember that? That was a great initiative. It was like almost as close to semi-pro as it's possible to get, right? It was like amateur, but they were being paid, and there were no head guards, and it was over 5 rounds. It's a shame that stopped because we had some great matchups there, but yeah, they're of similar experience, right? So what'll happen? It's very hard to tell because number one, Hrgovic has apparently trained in America, which I'm not sure he's done before. So one can only assume he's taking it seriously, that he's taken the time to get away from his family in Croatia, to go and train in America and get top sparring. And then there's Joe Joyce, who, quite recently was considered a big prospect for the World Heavyweight Championship. But he's aging, he's 39, But he knocked out Parker, he knocked out Daniel Dubum. And here he is now, as a virtual journeyman. So, I mean, obviously with heavyweight fights especially, until the weigh-ins, you can't make a definitive prediction because at the weigh-ins, it's like the lower weights, right? These days, they always come in ripped and in good shape. Sometimes they look a bit drawn, but people are becoming experts at cutting the weight. Modern boxing is so much about managing the weight. People don't realize the difference between now and historic boxing. People go, oh, would Ray Robertson beat whatever, Carl Froch or whoever, I don't know, Golovkin? And it's like, well, you can't really tell because there's totally different rules with weigh-ins, with PDs. You get Devin Haney puts on 40 pounds. He weighs in at 140 pounds and comes in at 160. You couldn't do that in the old days because they weighed in the same day they fought. So cutting weight, intravenous refluidation, if that's a word. All PEDs, all these things, modern training methods. You can't compare the old boxing to the modern boxing. But, in the heavyweights, they don't have to make the weight. But that's why it's interesting. You get more of an understanding of what shape they're in compared to their previous weights, what their body looks like. As I said, I thought Hrgovic looked in great shape against Dubum, and I predicted him to stop Dubum. And he caught him with overhand rights all the time, but he just couldn't stop him. And he gassed. So, what's going to happen? Well, I think it's going to go the distance, right? Now, if you look at the bookies, to go the distance is 2.75, right? That's almost 2-1. That's fair value. It's only a 10-rounder. It's not a 12-rounder. You got two guys that are durable, right? And yeah, both can punch, but I could just see them just awkwardly clubbing away at each other's big, solid heads for 10 rounds, and then both of them gassing a bit, And the value is probably on it going the distance, or if you want some real value, right? Joe Joyce on points is 10.0, so that's 9-1. That's not that's a big price in my opinion. That's a big price in my opinion. You could see it being close, but Joe Joyce edging the rounds on work rate, and not being able to stop Hrgovic, but going the distance. I think that's a pretty good bet. 9-1 on Joe Joyce to win on points. I might drop a 5 or a 10 on that. But I mean, it's likely to be a sadist fight. What I mean by that, he's got two guys with a fair punch, with great chins, that are just gonna wail away and whack at each other. But as I said, I have a 10-rounder. A 10-rounder. I mean, Hrgovic has gone almost 12 rounds against McKean, 12 rounds against Zhale Zhang, 8 rounds against Dubum, right? Joyce, 10 rounds against Ali, 10-round distance against Cesar. Yeah, he got smashed by Zhale Zhang, but Hrgovic hasn't got Zhale Zhang's power. His best wins are Joseph Parker, went to round 11. Daniel Dubum went to round 10. He went 12 rounds with Bryant Jennings. I mean, yeah, for me, the value is most definitely to go the distance. And in my opinion, the true value is Joe Joyce on points. That doesn't mean I think that's what's going to happen. I'm just saying that's the value. If I had to bet my life on it, I would go probably. It's such a tough one because you just don't know what shape they're going to be in, how shot Joe Joyce is, can he still hold a punch, whether Hrgovic is up for it, all these are questions, factors that can't be answered easily. But the value is definitely Joe Joyce on points. He's also in his home country. Remember, he's also in his home country. I mean, Hrgovic has fought in a few countries, because there isn't a big boxing scene in Croatia. So he's fought abroad many times. He even fought in Mexico. In Mexico, he's fought. Yeah, he's fought in Riyadh. Yeah, he's fought in Denmark, the United States, Jeddah. Yeah, in fact, 3 of his last 4 fights, Hrgovic, have been in Saudi Arabia. So he's used to fighting abroad, and he has fought in the O2 Arena in Greenwich when he knocked out McKean. So I don't think the home advantage is gonna, stress Hrgovic that much, because he's fought abroad for almost every single one of his fights. In fact, I think he's only fought twice in Croatia. So I don't think it's going to be too much of a factor. But the crowd will be behind Big Joe Joyce because he's a lovable moron, a giant. I mean, I always thought, maybe he isn't that stupid. Even though he speaks very slowly, I just thought he was a bit of an autist. But, by now, after the 2 beatdowns from Zhang, and when I see him talk, he seems a little slow. But so, although he only took up boxing at 21, right? He only took up boxing at 21. He's taken a lot of shots. But, for me, if I had to bet everything I owned, which is not much, I'd go Hrgovic points. But for the value, Joe Joyce points is the bet I'll be putting on. Peace in the Middle East.